Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 Virtual Summit. Wherever you are joining me from, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Lagos, London, New York, wherever you are in the world, we are so delighted to have you with us today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Shanara and I serve as the Under 30 Curator right here in Africa. Before we start today, I think we should set the scene for the class of 2026. Why are lists like this so important?
So I think lists like this are important because they form a recognition and a really strong encouragement, I think, not just for people on the list, but the communities around them. I think a lot of us belong to communities of people who've poured into us. And it's a form of encouragement that, you know, the work we're doing, the challenges we're facing, you know, all of that considered, we're still pushing in the right direction.
hope that I'm showing that different paths are viable. I hope that I'm showing that when you believe in something, that you can make a way in it. I hope that I'm also showing the value of hard work. I mean, I've been working in art since I literally left university with no real background beforehand, but I was just dogged in my determination.
We'd never take no for an answer. So, and even when I grew up, my father taught me to be very confident, very determined to what I believe and what's going to happen. So, but we never took the no's. Yeah.
This reading Forbes Accessibility 200. I think it got out like 3-4 days ago.
Yeah.
It's really motivating to see that narratives are shifting.
Yeah.
I think we are starting to have attention on matters such as inclusion because they're very important, I think, for the progression of humanity. And lists like Forbes 30, I think it's great that, we're able to recognize that some of these innovations are coming up.
How absolutely incredible was that? Being able to celebrate a remarkable group of young Africans who are not just waiting for the future to happen, they are actively part of building it. Today we'll be looking at people from entrepreneurs to innovators to creatives to changemakers. The class of 2026 represents some of the brightest talent on the continent. We'll explore everything from entrepreneurship, as I said, to artificial intelligence, and who can forget about the creative economy, while also celebrating the achievements that a class has in helping shape Africa's next chapter. To officially help me in welcoming today's virtual summit, it is my absolute pleasure to hand over to our managing editor at Forbes Africa, Renuka Mathal. Renu, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Forbes Africa 2026 30 Under 30 Virtual Summit, celebrating a new generation of innovators, creators, entrepreneurs, and changemakers redefining leadership in Africa. One of the unique privileges of being the editor of Forbes Africa is that every year, long before many of these young entrepreneurs, creators, and innovators become household names, we get to see them at the very beginning of their impressive journeys. Now, when people look at the 30 Under 30 list, they often see achievers, they see success. But what we see are application forms submitted at 2 a.m., founders pitching from unstable internet connections across Africa's deepest, darkest corners, entrepreneurs operating from tiny garages and offices in the suburbs and townships, and young people solving problems with nothing but unlimited imagination and tenacity. I've had the fortune of speaking to young founders and CEOs who've launched businesses during power outages, during the COVID-19 pandemic, during the recession, and in the midst of dire economic uncertainties as now. Many of them were told their ideas would never work. Yet today, here they are, creating jobs, building industries, and changing lives. For 12 years now, the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 list has recognized some of the continent's most exceptional young talent, and this year's class continues that proud legacy. Vetted by Forbes Africa's editorial research teams, as well as our knowledge partner, SNG Grant Thornton, along with a panel of independent external judges. Over the next 90 minutes, you will hear directly from the 2026 honorees, as well as some of our alumni who are helping shape the future of business, technology, and AI. Thank you for joining us from across Africa and beyond as we celebrate the people in this room who are writing the story of Africa's future in real time. And to begin our first panel discussion, I would like to hand it over to the curator of the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 list, our multimedia journalist, Chanel Retief. Chanel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Renu. It's so awesome hearing such encouraging words from you. If you are, wherever you are joining us from, please let us know in the comment section on the side, or you can head on over to @ForbesAfrica across all our platforms. But just remember to use our official hashtag Under 30 Virtual Summit 2026. It's a bit of a mouthful, but you get the gist, right? Right. Today is about recognizing individuals who span from different industries across different sectors, and in celebrating them, we understand that Forbes Africa Under 30 is about more than just recognition. It's about celebrating individuals who are changing industries, creating opportunities, and as I said, helping shape Africa's future. This year, the class of 2026, as Renu so beautifully put, is no exception. Our first panel is going to be looking at building the class of 2026. Perhaps I'm biased, as I feel like I spent about 9 months with them without them knowing. We will be talking to them about the remarkable work that they're doing that spans across business, creativity, as well as social impact. Together, some of these listers that we have here in the industry, in the studio, represent the diversity, innovation, and ambition that continue to define the continent. Before we begin our conversation with them, I think we should meet our panelists.
Building the class of 2026. Meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and creatives shaping Africa's future. Begi Abadula is the co-founder and chief operating officer of BS Technologies in Ethiopia. From South Africa, Zandile Zinqumalo is a singer and performer. Representing Uganda, Joan Rukundo Nalubega is the founder of Eugenix Repellents. And from South Africa, Brad Diane Norman is building a reputation for innovation, determination, and leadership in his field. This panel will be moderated by the Under 30 curator, Chanel Retief. Please welcome the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 class of 2026 panelists.
Well, that's not awkward at all. And we were getting into the swing of it, like. Apologies for that. As I said, I think I spent the last 9 months getting to know these incredible listers. So maybe I'm a little biased when I say that the class of 2026 was one that we do not want to forget anytime soon. Unfortunately, one of our panelists, Joan, could not make it today due to travel, but she is with us in spirit, as she said. Hello, everyone. I'm good, thanks, and yourself? Thank you so much for joining us. I know, Becky, you had to travel quite far to be here in Johannesburg, so we really, really appreciate it. Before we get into the nitty-gritties of building the class of 2026, tell me, because I'm very curious, what was that reaction moment, what did that reaction moment look like when you officially found out that you had made the list? This is for everybody here today. Becky, I'll start with you.
It was very exciting because the process was very long, as you said, very hectic. We had to submit a lot of things, so I didn't think it would really happen. So when I got the news, I was happy, jumping, excited, called my parents and everyone, and it's exciting for Ethiopia as well.
Brad, yourself?
Same for me. It was super exciting. It was a real surprise because I didn't know if I was going to enter through when I used to play football or if it's got to do now with my current business in boxing. So when I found out I was with my girlfriend and I opened your email, it was confidential though. I waited for it not to become confidential, and yeah, it was exciting for me.
The word confidential gets thrown a lot around in this process. Z, yourself?
Well, with me, when I found out that I had made it to the list, I think the first thing that came to my mind was, but isn't this list for rich people? Does that mean I'm rich? You know, because obviously it has always had a connotation of money, wealth, you understand? And it just goes on to show, Guti, it also speaks to impact, you know, the kind of impact that we do play in the society. So for me, it was very exciting, Shame. It was very, very exciting.
I think you've touched on a subject that is, you know, helps us segue into the first question, which is actually for you, Becky, is the comment and the theme, as Z has said, on impact. You started your journey because of family, as you've so boldly said, and the work that you do is purely, you know, connected to impact, but also connected to your family. Speak to us about why impact as a young person is so important to you.
So in my story, it was about my sister who was born with Down syndrome. So when she had Down syndrome in our country in Ethiopia, Down syndrome was not known very well. We classified everyone as intellectual disabilities, and we never cared about it because it never came to our family. So as a young person, when I found out about my sister, I said we had to do better. We have to make a difference and we have to help them. So being impactful and working hard to shed the lights on intellectual disability, shed the lights that they are as equal person as we are and that they deserve a better life. So it has been impactful, the work that we did in Deborah Foundation.
Thank you so much, Becky. I think still staying on the theme of impact, Brad, the work that you do, I mean, Brad has now briefly mentioned that he was a footballer before. I'm sure you were very happy the other day when Bafana won.
Yeah, I was super happy. I was proud of my former teammate Ron winning goals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, keeping a clean sheet.
Like you were amongst many South Africans celebrating, I'm sure.
Yes, at like 3 a.m.
But the work that you do as well is that, I remember in our interview, you spoke a lot about wanting to give opportunity to people who were previously disadvantaged and may not get opportunities to travel internationally, especially in this sector.
Yes, so when I was playing abroad, I was fortunate to play overseas, and I lived out my dream, and I noticed a lot of my friends back home never had the opportunity to ever go overseas or anything like that. So what I did was I got into boxing promotions. One of my friends had an opportunity to fight in England and changed his life. So after that, I started putting on shows and signing boxers from all over Africa and getting them the training, because the natural ability and talent is in Africa, just the opportunity wasn't there. So I used those contacts through football to now help boxers get their opportunities and to hopefully live out their dreams and become world champions.
I think you've said something that you've touched on something that helps us, you know, look at your career, Z, is that this idea of, you know, not a lot of opportunities are created for many people on the continent, although we have so much talent here. And you're a huge testament to that. I remember in our interview, you spoke a lot about being a woman in the industry and being a young woman in this industry. How have you found navigating that space and having to make your voice heard?
I mean, to me, it just goes as far as being exposed. You know, a lot of young women are not really exposed to, and I speak for 80% of the people in South Africa, they're not really exposed to the business side of things, you know, because not a lot of us grew up with parents who own businesses. Most of the time, it's a situation of my mother is an employee from a certain company. So you can only know so much about business. So you can only imagine I wake up one day, I have a popular song, 1. 2, I need to run a team of more than 3 people. I have no entrepreneurial background. You know, I mean, the only entrepreneurial background that I have is that I was a loan shark in high school where I used to borrow people money. So it took so much learning, it took a lot of skills, it took a lot of applying myself and, you know, actually going out there to people who are in the similar industry as I am to ask, actually, how do we do this thing? What do you do in a situation like this? How do you employ people? What do you even ask when you're trying to employ a person? You understand? Because
these are not things that they teach you in school.
Definitely not. And I had no working experience whatsoever. Straight from high school, I went to varsity. I became So yeah.
You touched on something which was a huge theme on this year's list, which is this idea of underestimating young people and young people having to figure out and go learn these skills by themselves, because as Z said, in schools they don't really teach you these things. What are some of the challenges, especially as a young person starting out, and all of you represent different sectors. What are some of the challenges that you experienced in starting out, especially as a young person? Z, I'll start with you this time.
It would definitely have to be applying myself in the business world, in a sense that understanding that I actually have to play a leadership role. I don't even have leadership skills, but how do I become a leader to a lot of these people? But I guess I learned along the way. Yeah, I learned along the way.
Brad, yourself?
In terms of challenges?
In terms of challenges as a young person in your industry?
I think in my industry, a lot of the people have been in those positions for a long time. So they've got the connections, they've got the sponsors for their shows. And coming in, everyone's like, you're coming from a different industry, even though it's sports.
Yeah.
It's not that same promotion, getting sponsors, working with TV networks. It was all new to me, but I think everyone faces the same challenges.
And yourself, Becky?
So as he said, being young and being a leader is very complicated because people don't trust you. So regarding our IT company, my IT company, whenever we went and pitched our idea, no one believed that really could do it, that really would happen. So when we employed a lot of people under us, when we gave trainings and when we went again and again and we tried harder, they believed that, because at first they said, oh, you can't do that, I'm sure you're not going to do it, or they think it's just talk, but it's real. And that was the challenge, being young and being a leader. They don't think it's true, that they don't think it's going to happen.
That just talk is a very big theme that we see happening a lot with young people. And it was interesting to me is that when building this particular class, is that you all sort of had the same sort of experiences, that industry experts and industry leaders would be like, well, is this the real deal or is it just talk? In your industry specifically, that's a big thing. Is this like, is Z the real thing, or is it just how have you found, and this is what's amazing about this generation, is the power of social media and collaboration. How have you found social media to be your biggest tool in getting rid of that it's just talk narrative?
So with social media, okay, so we are in a very good time. It's a good time to be South African, young, and a musician, especially with social media platforms like your TikToks, your YouTube, your Instagram. It allows us to, cross over even quicker than it took the previous generation. So we're in a setting where I feel like it's very, very important to set the narrative very clear, especially on social media. So one of my songs, Ngisakuthanda, is like a very big song, right? Even big abroad. And I got to understand there's a problem with interpretation here. So as I perform, people are dancing. You understand? That means the music was able to cross over, to translate, but it's taking us a long time as artists to do the same as well. So I've actually found things like your music videos, videos that you actually upload on YouTube, they also play a huge role, because after then I shot a short film for the very same song, and then I went to Kenya right after we had just released the short film, and then the guy was like, oh, so the song is a sad story song. You understand? All along we didn't know that the song is a sad story song. They thought it was a groove song. Do you understand? And then that's when I saw, it's okay, maybe even with the social media, it's dope that the music is crossing over, but we must put in a bit of effort in interpreting what exactly it is that we're doing, because I'm seeing there's a language barrier in between. Someone can be like, and dancing, but is literally, I'm sorry. So yeah.
It's about formatting. It's about how you package it. For you, Brad, when you think about the way you shifted from being a footballer to literally helping promote boxes. It's like two worlds apart. Before I ask my question, how did you decide boxing was going to be the avenue you took? I mean, I know. Let them know.
So when I was playing football, my second sport was always boxing. For me, it's the hardest sport out of all the sports, because you don't have any teammates. You're all on your own and you're fighting some other person, And also when I saw all the boxers in the gym, not normal people train, like boxers that want to be professional. They all come from the most humble beginnings, and they're the most like I think the most movies on Netflix recently, it's all like boxing movies.
Yeah.
So I think people associate with the story of boxing, and that's how.
It's interesting. Sports and creativity come together with the boxing films. But what I wanted to ask you is that how have you found social media to be a powerful tool for your business then?
It's super powerful. For instance, becoming part of Forbes and just announcing that I was part of Forbes, people comment and then it goes on the page of my boxing promotion and they move there. So for my athletes, it's one of the most important things because if they do something, they can go viral and then the next thing they're fighting overseas and they're earning money they'd never have earned here. So social media has really opened up for Africans, the world, people to see them. Yeah.
So social media actually contributes with boxing. Like, does it help?
Yes.
How?
Ask him.
So for instance, I've got a boxer called Maya Miko and his nickname is Tyson because he looks similar to Tyson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he actually started boxing because he got bullied in school. So he went and watched like YouTube videos of Mike Tyson and now he's fighting for the national title next month. But for instance, people are following him. He had 6 million views on his one knockout. So like that now, the whole of Malawi knows him. He's going to fight for the title. And like promoters overseas are like, oh, we want this guy in this card. Is he the real deal? Is he not?
Better opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So Brad's entire, setup is about, taking it from just being the talk to it being, an actual thing, that happens for people who are disadvantaged as well.
Oh, that's very dope.
So, so when we think about the work that you do, Becky, because Becky, you're not only part of the Deborah Foundation, you also founded a technology business as well, BS Technologies. How has social media helped you navigate that? Because I imagine, have to split your time up a lot.
So for the foundation, we gave awareness on what Down syndrome is and what we do at the foundation, that Down syndrome adults can be hired and they can go to work. We showed that through TikTok, we showed that through Instagram, and people knew that they could do things with social media because they never came and visited our institute. And regarding the IT company, we did the same exact thing. So we showed people that they can book their tickets, they can book their bus money, like they can manage their bus on social media. So we showed them how to use the applications, like each step by step on social media. So it was very helpful. Also give credential to the company, so they know the company is real, they know the company is working, because a lot of people go on social media, they comment like, I used the system, or I used their service, I received the service. So it was very helpful.
You guys are just fascinating, Z, today. You're so fascinated. When you look at, the fact that you guys have made the list this year, again, congratulations. What was the moment when you felt like, before you made the list, what was the moment you felt like you made it within your career? I'll start with you, Becky.
So this is a huge deal for us, like for all Ethiopians, Forbes under 30, because not a lot of people from Ethiopia were on it. So people calling me and saying, really, you got on the Forbes, because they never saw that on Instagram, on the social media. That even the government, like our government, the Prime Minister, they knew that I was on Forbes. They knew about the magazine, and it was a huge deal. And it brought impact as well, because now the foundation is mentioned on the Forbes magazine, the Forbes, even my IT companies mentioned over there. So people now can see what we do in Ethiopia, what we do for children with intellectual disabilities, and what we do in IT, because IT and innovation now in Ethiopia, there's a digitalization of Ethiopia initiative, a huge initiative that our Prime Minister started. So Ethiopia needs to be digitalized by 2030, fully digitalized. So one of the sectors is the transport sector. So being recognized by Forbes on the transport sector. Yes, so it was a huge deal, a big impact.
Amazing. What did that mean for you to make the list, Brad?
Well, I just made it in time. It's my birthday like next month. So
okay, happy birthday.
I was under huge pressure, but for me it was really cool when I featured in the Forbes 30 under 30 Africa. Especially like in school, when I was told by teachers, when you're in primary school, they say, what do you want to be when you're older? It's like, I want to be a policeman, or I want to be a soccer player. They're like, okay. And then when you get to grade 8 or 9, you're like, what do you want to be? And everyone's like, an accountant, a dentist.
And they do serious.
And then I'm still like a soccer player. So they're like, no, you need to focus on something serious. You can't do that. So it's cool to have done something in sports and business together. So I'd love to go back to my high school and see the teachers.
I was about to say, I hope they're watching this now and they're like, sure, We should have actually just believed.
Could have worked together.
Exactly. See, what did it mean to you to make the list?
Obviously, like my fellow panelists, I was happy, you know, I was very happy and honored, you know. For me, it was a sign that we headed towards the right direction, especially because the previous week we had just gotten the news that we are on a billboard in New York.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Sure. It's just been like, you know.
Do you understand? So it's been the era of wins, you know, and I'm only grateful to God. Thank you so much, you know, especially because, I mean, when I actually read the article, it was like, oh, Zandile Zinqimalo, the only musician in South Africa. And I'm like, oh, so I'm the only musician. Oh, I'm the youngest musician.
Some of these things about yourself.
The last time, so let me tell you something. The last time I heard of a South African making it to the Forbes list was when Bonang was part of it. Do you get what I mean? So you can, and Bonang is a very, you know, iconic woman in the South African industry. So you can only imagine how I feel when I read that, oh, the only musician, you know, so it meant a lot. But more than anything, I think it was a stepping stone. You would see, like, we are really headed towards the right direction.
I remember in our interview, you made a very poignant statement. You said that when I asked you, when did you feel like you made it? You said, you're still busy.
Yes.
Do you still feel like that now?
We are making it every week. We are making it every week. No, genuinely. And I feel like sometimes maybe we tend to take the moments for granted.
Yes.
Because we are literally living in times,
yeah,
two times faster.
It's like hustle
After
and bustle.
here, I'm doing this. After this, I'm doing that. Then you tend to forget that we're actually doing remarkable things, you know, things that deserve to be celebrated. But it means a lot. It really does mean a lot.
For Forbes Africa, we believe in celebrating the African growth story, and you are officially a part of that. What advice would you give to people who want to be in your position one day and also make the list? I'll start with you again, Azzy.
Well, I always say this, it's important to be yourself, and you can only do that by spending time with yourself, you know, understanding the kind of person that you are, because I find the world that we live in very influential, you know, we have so much influence over each other, and then we tend to forget that I'm my own person, I've got my own dreams, things that make sense to me. So I'll always encourage the younger people to allow themselves time to spend time with themselves, like uzazi, know yourself, I'm this, I'm that, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. And then after then, it's so easy for you to draw the plan. I feel like had I spent enough time with myself, by the time I got the opportunity to be Zinqimalo, I was going to be ready, because I would know that for you to run a team, you need leadership skills, you need this, you need that, you need, but it's not too late now, because I'm learning and I'm still growing. So
I'm glad to hear that you one is, you know, stop time and celebrate these moments.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely amazing to hear that. Brad, what advice would you give to someone who wants to make the list one day?
Well, that was excellent advice. I definitely give them your advice. You could be in a billboard in New York. I mean, that's pretty cool.
You never know. One day you could wake up and then your billboard is there.
I'm going to follow that advice for Forbes 40 under 40. That's my goal.
The next thing.
But my advice would be that, like, honestly, anything is possible if you're honest with yourself. So if you know that you've done sacrificed and this is your route you're going, then you, like anything, the sky's the limit. Like, because if you put the sacrifice in, you miss the parties, and you really invest yourself into that sector you're interested in, then I think, and you listen to people and learn and get lucky as well. It's also a lot of luck. Luck. But you make your own.
Because he said he had a month left and then he had to run.
But like, you make your own luck.
Of course.
So.
I think one thing that you touched on before I get to Becky, what advice she would give, is that you skip the parties and stuff. I think there's this massive thing with young people, and this is why this list is such a big deal, is that young people dedicating themselves to their craft, to their sector, is such a huge deal. Did you find that there was a lot of sacrifices that you had to make?
I think everyone probably on this panel, even yourself, made sacrifices to get where you are. But you know, I tell my boxers, like, you know, in the 10th round, it's the last round, if you're tired and you missed that session like 2 months ago, or you were drinking at your friend's birthday, it always comes back. So if you're honest with yourself, you know that, like, you can do whatever you want. That's what my advice.
He puts his hands up.
Like, I've never smoked, I've never done any. So like, I still live the same way I would be if I was playing as an athlete, and I try to showcase that to the athletes I manage, that I'll train with them, I'll box with them, I'll spar with them, because if you can't do something yourself, then you can't really tell someone else to do it, can you?
Guys, Brad wanted me to come and box with them. He's like, it's good for exercise and stuff. I was like, bye. That's not happening.
There's a show tonight, and I can like feature a celebrity bout. I can make it happen.
Imagine, like, it's just one time. One time. Becky, what advice would you give to young people who want to make the list? Especially, like you said, Ethiopia is one country that you felt like you hadn't seen a lot of, especially Ethiopians who are looking to you now as a role model.
So I would say working hard. They mentioned most of the important things, but I think working hard, not giving up, because things get hard when you're working, when you're trying to bring something new. So never giving up is one of the steps. And the second one is, after being on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, now I need to work harder because I need to keep up with the title, being the under 30 list. So both in both aspects, is working hard is the best part, and not giving up, and also staying true to yourself, and also having like a goal, like what do I want in 5 years, what do I want in 1 year, and what do I need to accomplish, and also what am I going to leave behind, like what did Becky do at the end, and what difference did she make by being alive. So
I think it's the question is about legacy, right? And this idea of legacy. I think my final question to all three of you is that when you think about what the list has done for you, I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, right, since you've been on the list. What do you think it's going to do for you, you know, from a longevity perspective for your business and yourself as a young entrepreneur?
So for my business, for the IT company, now it gives credibility that BS Technologies is a good IT company that makes innovative solutions. And for the Deborah Foundation, it also gives credibility. It showcases the foundation to the world, and it showcases that intellectual disability is a topic that needs to be discussed about every day, that they need to be included. So the list gives us an opportunity to be visible, also to have like a credibility, because if I'm under the Forbes 30 under 30 list, she's definitely a hard worker. She's definitely a change maker. So it's like a sign. Like I could put it over here and go like, I'm a Forbes 30 under 30 list maker, so I can do this, I can do that. So it gives.
You will put it there and be like, and she's on the cover as well. I mean, have you guys seen this picture of Becky right there? Like, it's amazing. What has this achievement done for you, and what do you think it's going to do for you, Brad?
Well, obviously, like Becky said, it brings a lot of credibility and prestige to the business or company or charity that you're working with. So for me, it brings a lot of credibility to now my athletes. That people will take them serious, that they're part of a proper promotion and stuff like that. And now, just this week, one of them signed for a world title fight. So it just opened a lot of doors, and then also opens doors to meet lots of like incredible young people. Yeah.
And yourself, Z?
Obviously, credibility, you know, it's going to go a long way. But I am hoping that it inspires younger women like myself. For example, like I had mentioned to you, with the Forbes 30 under 30, to some people, they don't even know what it is. Do you understand? But they do know who Zingumalo is. Do you understand? So by the time they actually get to be under the Forbes 30 under 30 list, they get to understand, oh, this thing meant this and that and that and that. And that's why I always advocate for exposure. Like, I pray, and I really pray that people expose themselves, find themselves, and they'll be right.
They'll be okay.
They'll be right.
They will be okay. They will be okay. I know I said that was my final question, but I just have one more question for each of you. If you had to think about yourselves like when you were younger, like let's say 8 years old with a big dream, did you ever think you would be here right now? I'll start with you, Becky.
Never. Not, because this is a big deal. But before, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I want. So Z mentioned knowing yourself, being true to yourself is the best part to success. Like it gives you credibility again, because you know what to do. So before, I didn't know what I want to do, and when I knew what I want to do, this is what I want to be in.
This is exactly where you. I think that was everybody's like Instagram post, is that like finally the dream come true. And this is where you guys have landed. Brad, yourself, years ago, the kid who said to the teachers, "I want to be a soccer player." Did you ever think this would be where you would be?
Well, personally, yes, myself.
Yeah.
But I think everyone around me may have thought otherwise. But now,
And those people are watching now.
now I've got the perfect get out of jail free card in the argument.
Fully.
Be like, oh, are you sure? I'm in Forbes 30 under 30. I must be right.
You know nothing. I'm on Forbes under 30. Like, come on. Amazing. Thank you, Brad. Yourself, Z?
Obviously not.
And Z is only 23. Like, she is only 23. This is a big achievement for someone that young. So you had more time than Brad.
Next, Brad, your time was up, bro.
You're going to feature like every year.
Yes, for the next 7 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah. With me, did I think I was going to make it to the Forbes 30 under 30 Africa? Definitely not. You know, like I had said to you, my dreams, and I don't say this with intentions of, you know, looking down upon myself or anything, but my dream was literally to have Song of the Year, win an award, perform at Durban July. I'm done. That was my dream because that's what I was exposed to.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, Guti. Me getting Forbes under 30, what, it's like, it's a sign, Guti. It definitely gets better. And the more I put in effort, the more I'm a result now.
Well,
So I definitely did not think I was going to make it.
Well, you guys have made it, clearly. Congratulations once again. I could probably speak to you guys all day, but I think it's because I'm biased. And like I said, I've taken 9 months to get to know you. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you for sharing your wonderful stories. Your stories obviously remind us that Africa's future is being written by young people who are prepared to take risks, challenges, and challenge the status quo, as well as build solutions that matter. One of the most exciting themes that emerged from this year's list was the fact that the most represented industry was artificial intelligence. In the class of 2025, we saw the bubblings of artificial intelligence within businesses, but in 2026, it absolutely skyrocketed. Across the continent, young innovators are using AI not only to improve healthcare, education, but also help in their business outcomes in formulating businesses that will shape the future of Africa. Our next discussion will explore how Africa's brightest minds are ensuring that the continent doesn't simply just adopt AI, but actively shape it and be part of the conversation completely. I am absolutely delighted to hand over to my colleague who is joining us all the way from the mother city in Cape Town, Freddie, who will be moderating this conversation. But before he starts, shall we meet the panelists?
The young innovators building Africa's future. Meet the entrepreneurs, founders, and visionaries building the future of AI in Africa. Thapelo Ntite is the founder and CEO of Bukhali AI. Eli Savatia, founder of Signverse in Kenya. From Ghana, Darlington, Ahiale Akogo is the founder of Minor Health AI Labs. Bradley Max Siegel, co-founder of Engage MX in South Africa. The moderator for this panel is multimedia journalist at Forbes Africa, Freddie Heine. Together, they represent the next generation of African innovators building the future through artificial intelligence.
Yes, you join me from the mother city, where we'll be taking another deep dive into this year's Forbes Africa 30 under 30 list. Now, many industries featured in the class of 2026, and rightly so. Africa's markets are full of promise and activity. But one industry stood out most, AI. As an under 30 myself, I'm privileged and inspired to be joined by our distinguished panelists, 4 African pioneers helping to mold the African AI ecosystem, including 2 current cover stars and 2 former listers. Now, Africa's demographic, young and increasingly tech-savvy, shows a region capable of maximizing the modern era, but doing so will require a continental push from policy to infrastructure. So without further ado, I'd like to start with momentum. Is Africa rising to the occasion? Research shows between 2020 and 2025, the amount of AI companies on the continent doubled, reaching over 5,900. So I'd like to start with a round robin of answers, starting with you, Ellie, over to you, Thapelo, Bradley, and then Darlington. I want to get a sense of whether you're experiencing a significant surge of activity within your recent fields, not just from an entrance perspective, but from your ability to progress, and just give a little synopsis of your field.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are definitely experiencing a lot of change. I think looking at right now, with frontier technology, of course, the rise of AI, I think you're seeing a lot of progress with our models, particularly for my case, assistive technology. And I think AI, can either become like the greatest equalizer, in history, or the greatest amplifier of exclusion. And I think if you're looking at the next generation of digital services, there's a lot of push that's actually coming, with accessibility in mind, with millions of people's with disabilities, being at risk of being locked out by design. But I think we're seeing a lot of push right now in, even just pushing for inclusive design. And I'd say it's a pretty much interesting time to live in right now.
Thank you. So we operate in the custom engagement space. So we help businesses engage with their customers in African languages. And we definitely are seeing a lot of activity. And part of it is, from new entrants who are developing similar technologies, which is great because, there's quite a lot of work to be done in the language space. Another aspect of it is actually how receptive the local market is to the technology. So our journey at Botale started before generative AI, before the popular platforms of the world like ChatGPT and them. And during those days, it was actually a bit challenging to convince people that, the technology works, the AI works. But what we're seeing is very different because a lot of people have a personal relationship with the AI technology. And in turn, they're more receptive to deploying such technology in their solution. They see the power at a very personal level. So that's really been helpful in our space.
My background's been mainly in healthcare and academic research, and I think principally, I don't think there's been a more exciting time to work in either. I think generally, since about December, I think people have opened up to the fact that AI is just really incredible at writing software and writing it incredibly fast. And there's just so many tasks in that space that can be accelerated by writing software. I think there's been a 30% rise in the amount of people that are producing papers. Obviously, there's challenges with this, but I think people are incredibly excited at the rate at which they can do research, the avenues that open up to them. I think if you look at just the accessibility people have to medical information through the various LLM providers, it's probably on a scale much broader than even having access to it through Google was. So I don't think there's a more exciting time to be involved in either of these disciplines. I think healthcare has been an interesting one because it's been a space that globally there hasn't been much change, despite the fact that there's been waves of software and digital infrastructure. It's been one of those places that hasn't really changed that much over the last 40 years. And I think there's just for the first time ever, well, at least in my lifetime, there's this just energy and excitement that feels like there is something here and we can actually meaningfully change and improve care for millions and millions of people. And I think every single person you speak to has got a really interesting idea about how they can use these tools to do something different in health or do something completely new. So I think it's a really interesting and exciting time.
Yeah, so for us is the same. There's been quite a huge surge. So I run Mino Health AI Labs, where essentially we focus on AI for healthcare. But I also run other AI ventures. So there's Kara Agro AI, Gudra AI, and then Ranmila AI, looking at agriculture, enterprise, and then education. So for Mino Health, essentially when, now we are like old people, but when we got featured last year, our AI, we got usage from 50 countries, over 50 countries. As of date, because just recently we needed to create a report. So we check how much usage we're getting from the different countries. And currently we have usage from 118 countries. So we essentially doubled the number of countries that use our Moremi AI system for everything from screening, diagnosis, treatment, planning, prescription. And of course, being featured on the Forbes Africa 30 under 30 definitely helped us to do that. So essentially in about exactly a year's time, we've seen double the number of activity. Double might be an understatement, actually. So we are currently processing, generating billions of tokens using our AI system. But that's breadth. Even in depth, for example, a hospital chain, currently we are doing a deployment for them where they came to us and essentially said, from when a patient walks into the facility to when they leave, have your AI system be involved in everything. So we are having our AI system run all the entire process, even their warehouses where they keep their medicines. We're having our AI system optimize, track everything, predict the demand and supply for them. When you walk in and you see a nurse, you're registering, our AI is listening to help capture information and then put it in the system for them, have AI do triage, come up with diagnosis, support doctors and everything. So the demand is really, really insanely growing, especially in a field like healthcare, where for the most part, there's a lot of fear that used to exist previous years because people, it's human health, but now we've gotten to a point where doctors actually trust AI systems. So there's extremely high demand. We're doing a lot of work in drug design too as well. We're working with Imperial College London, MRC. We're currently working on using our AI to create vaccines for Ebola, monkeypox, malaria. So there's also high demand in producing new therapeutics, new life science research. So the surge, especially on the continent, is quite insane. Yeah.
Thank you all. I mean, productivity is certainly through the roof with this technology, which really does seem like a once-in-a-generation moment in an implementation way. Ellie, I would like to start with you. You describe yourself as a tech optimist. You serendipitously found your way to excessive tech. So you touched on this a little bit. While AI promises endless possibilities for impaired communities, has the threat of digital exclusion ever been greater?
I think you'd want to look at it from, so services are becoming increasingly online. I think we're looking at AI-driven, even, shopping, and there's that risk of locking a particular set of people behind. And for my case, I work with the deaf community. And I think some of the questions we keep asking ourselves is that, if AI systems do not perhaps understand sign languages, or if the modern world is not built with inclusive design in mind, you're looking at local context, you're looking at accessibility needs. So digital exclusion simply scales. And we think that opportunity is enormous because we want to make inclusion to come by design, but not as an afterthought. And I think you can reference this to how buildings can be made, then later on you'd have ramps. So we're trying to change that, but now with digital transformation and saying that it must be built from a point of infrastructure from day one to make sure that even as technology is rapidly evolving, we've built tools that are easily integratable on websites, multimedia content, one-on-one interactions, and just trying to envision that world where as much as AI is an equalizer, there's that risk of being an amplifier. So how do we meet at a point where we're able to ideally make sure that as tech is rapidly improving, inclusion is by design from the word go.
Amazing. Amazing. And just to stick with you, Ellie, I would like to ask do you see a future where deaf and hearing communities converse seamlessly in real time? I mean, when I think of how to do that, wearables is something, is this something we can achieve?
100%. I think anything that is repetitive, there's that potential to automate. And I think we've proven that it's actually, it's capable. We're capable to automate sign language translation. I think as it stands right now, sign language generation is what has been mostly achieved. On our case, text speech to sign language, it's more like one way. The other way around, the technology is still maturing. I don't even think none of the big tech has really resolved that. But I think looking at the next 5, 10 years, I foresee a world where sign language interpretation should be fully automated. And I think what we're looking at here is scale. So humans cannot scale, but technology can scale. And we're not necessarily like removing human interpreters from the equation, but complementing what they cannot do. And that's why we are really heavy on, scaling infrastructure for sign language. So yes, to your question.
Nice, thank you. There are reportedly around 40 million deaf people in Africa, just to give you a sense of kind of the market where we are. Thapelo, I'd like to come to you because we're also talk about this kind of inclusivity, exclusivity kind of divide, and AI can do so much wonder, but it can also get left behind. So when Africa has upwards of 3,000 languages, but under 50 of them are accessible on large language models, that's your Claudes and your ChatGPTs. How far is Africa from full AI inclusivity? And kind of, can you just give a sense of what is at risk of it losing both economically and socially if it doesn't unlock this?
Yeah, I think we are still a bit of a distance away, but what's great is that we've got a lot of people like Ellie working on similar challenges. So there's a couple of challenges we face on the African continent. Historically, a lot of our languages haven't been properly documented, and therefore one of the challenges is having sufficient or adequate data to train an AI model. So that's even before generative AI, that's been one of the challenges. And in fact, if we don't bridge the gap to getting our languages being used on digital services, what we risk is that the languages again will not be documented, and then we're going to lose the use of the languages. And by losing the use of the language, it's tied to who we identify as people, right? So we also we'll start losing quite a bit of our identity as Africans. And the impact, I think, from an economical perspective, I generally like, simplifying it and thinking about everyday things that people cannot do if they do not speak the languages that are used online. In South Africa, you can't register a business online, you can't open a bank account online. And, to a lot of people, these are mundane things, but if you really want to participate in the formal digital economy, you need to be able to do those things. So really, from an economic perspective, people are being, excluded from the formal digital economy, simply put. So it's quite crucial that we get the technology in front of people. So not just build it for the sake of having AI that speaks African languages, but really implementing it across various industries that people interface with on a daily basis.
Yes. Yes, I agree. It's imperative to the African growth story. And just to shoot one more question back to you, Thapelo, because I was very fascinated when you kind of get into conversational AI. Where do you see the future going? Is it going to be everywhere? Is it going to be everywhere socially and optimally? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, so I think, like in the context of Africa, voice is a big thing, and that's one of the next biggest frontiers. And that's because if you consider conversational AI and you're just basing it off of chat or text, it assumes a certain level of literacy. And we know we've got some of these literacy challenges on the continent. But when we speak about like spoken language, then we can get a lot more adoption. So I think that's the one part from a technical deployment perspective. On the other side, it's really going beyond just doing transactional conversational AI when dealing with organizations, but going into hyper-personalization, not just from a language perspective, but from an individual perspective. If you're servicing a specific customer who speaks isiZulu, for example, knowing their history, knowing their context, and understanding the way they use language, even if it's even if it's not like the formal version of the language. So that's where I see conversational AI heading, really meeting people where they are and at a very, very personalized level.
Yeah, totally. Darlington, I'd like to get into healthcare now and ask you a question, because Africa faces a huge access problem in its healthcare industry. I got some figures from your side, actually. Doctor to patient ratio is 1 to 60,000 in Malawi. Radiologist to patient ratio is 1 to 800,000 in Ghana. I mean, that is just like terrible and crazy, and we can overcome this with technology. But how are you democratizing this space? And are we just scratching the surface of what's possible in terms of being able to screen people, formulate drugs, and kind of so on and so forth?
Yeah, so we've seen an abundance of use cases within the domain of healthcare as far as AI is concerned. The good thing is that, I mean, we started Mino Health 2016, 2017, so about 10 years ago. When we started back in the days, what we did was essentially we trained single model to do single tasks. So we had a model that could look at X-rays and only X-rays. But now we've moved way beyond that. So we have Moremi AI, which is our generative AI platform. It is essentially a general purpose AI for health and biology system. The advantage there is that even with the same AI model, we discover new use cases all the time. So one of the use cases that has emerged, especially within the last couple of months, it's what we call the traffic light system. So what happens is that essentially there's a lot of EHR being used in hospitals nowadays. What we do is that every time a doctor or clinician makes an entry into an EHR, our AI system will check that entry against all patient records. So for example, if you're prescribing some medication to a patient, the AI system will check your prescription against the patient's entire clinical history, which takes the AI essentially milliseconds, not even seconds. And the advantage of that is if, let's say, one of the active ingredients in the medicine you're prescribing, it's going to have an interaction with an allergy the patient has, or the patient has some precondition where that drug you're prescribing is going to affect them, the AI system quickly flags it. The thing is that doctors do amazing work, they're brilliant, but there's overwhelming data that is being generated for every patient. It's impossible for a doctor to keep up with all this data. And so what we do instead is that let the doctor do what they do best and let the AI sit behind as an assistant, track everything. So it's checking for correlation, it's checking for anomalies, it's checking for possible issues. It's also checking for, let's say, the standard treatment guideline. So if you're writing a diagnosis or if you're making a prescription, it's checking for Ghana's standard treatment guidelines, South African standard treatment guideline, and saying that, is this within the recommended dosage that is supposed to be given to this patient? If not, it's going to flag it. So that's one of the use cases that has actually emerged. We are doing a lot of EHR integration now, because one of the things we keep learning more and more is that you don't want to stress doctors by creating a standalone system that sits outside of their workflow. You want something that whatever they're using, let the AI embed in it and make things much easier for them. So yeah, there are several use cases that I imagine, and it just keeps getting more and more. And definitely we're only scratching the surface. But one guiding principle we use is that right now, for a lot of implementation we're doing, you can even go as far as let AI draft everything. So even the prescription, our AI system comes up with prescription. Diagnosis, it comes up with clinical notes, but it's a draft. Always let the doctor review and finalize it after that. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it seems like it's on the cusp of fast tracking a relatively sluggish industry. I think everyone watching has probably had a moment waiting in a room for hours on end, and it seems like this could be kind of the solution to getting over that hurdle. Bradley, I'd like to come to you now. Non-communicable diseases account for around 70% of global deaths. And a big reason being is that the healthcare system, it's set up relatively reactively. How is AI making it proactive?
Well, I mean, thinking about chronic disease, it's effectively for the majority of human history, we've been fighting infectious disease. It's been this thing that sort of just spreads across continents and makes people very sick. And effectively, you get it, and either you get better or you die. Chronic disease has been this thing that generally, as countries have gotten richer and we've solved other problems, it's just this thing that builds and builds, and you can't really solve it. These are things like hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, a very long list of diseases that you can get that functionally over time are going to make you less healthy. They're going to shorten your lifespan, but are functionally something you can just treat or maybe just support, but you're never going to be able to cure. And health systems are not really set up to make these things easy. What Darlington's talking about is that there's all these amazing opportunities to plug into health systems and to plug into electronic health records. Well, the vast majority of people with chronic disease, the people you really want to go after, don't exist in any of these records. They don't really engage these systems very often. And I mean, if you think about it as from a patient's perspective, you have to effectively treat yourself like a patient. Like you have to understand what your disease is. You have to understand when you need to go get checked out. It's effectively the responsibility sits on you. And I think the really exciting parts about AI and the really exciting parts about integrating it into these broader systems is that you can democratize and distribute this knowledge through society and make it much, much easier to effectively understand when you need to be seen, what you need to be seen for, and to find disease long before you actually have complications. It has been something that I think everyone's dreamed of for a very long time, but the general discovery has been that scaling these systems is very expensive. Connecting to the places they need to is very hard, because what I think Ellie and Tapela have been speaking about is that accessibility and engagement is very tough for people who don't necessarily understand if you're just emailing them very complex medical details. And for the first time, you can effectively have a tool that is personal, can access people that are generally very difficult to interact with. And the thing that I find very exciting is you can actually start connecting them to different services and different parts of healthcare very quickly. For the work we've done, we've largely gone and found lots of people who exist in primary health systems who've just never been able to actually have their diseases managed properly, quote unquote. And this is not a case of doctors necessarily doing their job badly, but it's that there's lots and lots of steps that need to be done to make your chronic disease managed optimally. And if you don't know, which generally most patients are not going to sit and read clinical guidelines, it's very difficult for you to know that you need to go get checked every 6 months. So you have to have this blood test when. And so I think that's really the exciting frontier. And realistically, I think it's the only thing that's going to meaningfully shift the numbers on just the way of chronic disease that we're seeing on the continent.
Yeah, there's a theme kind of with each discussion here. It's all about uplifting the marginalized, and that is a real possibility here with implementation and access. But a theme that doesn't really get spoken about much is policy. And Darlington, I know you're very involved in this space. Can you just give us a sense of how important policy is in Africa, how it's handling it, especially when you have a technology moving as fast as this? It must be so hard to keep up with this.
Yeah, so I mean, the advantage of having policy or broadly just governance is that you get to be very intentional, right? So how AI develops in Africa shouldn't be random. It should be very intentional, right? So I served as one of the chairs for the Continental AI Strategy for African Union and also a co-chair for Ghana's National AI Strategy. And some of the things we addressed in both strategies is looking at, take, for example, compute, right? We need to drastically grow the compute in Africa. This wouldn't happen randomly. I was slightly vocal online when I saw the news about Kenyan government canceling their contracts, or at least halting their contract with Microsoft because they mentioned energy challenges. Those are some of the things that strategy needs to address, right? So we need to grow compute. How do we do it with energy challenges? The solution is not to say data centers are bad. I know there's a lot of narrative going around that, oh, data centers are bad because they consume water and all of that. Like, I don't want to get into all of that. There's a long justification for them, but we need to be strategic. We saw what happened when the US government essentially told Anthropic that they needed to ensure that every non-US national, even working at Anthropic, should not be allowed to use their newest model, which was Fable 5. That is the world we live in, and more of that is going to happen. I just read sometime hours ago that the US government asked OpenAI to delay the new release of their AI model for security reasons. So we are going to see the importance of sovereign AI more and more. We're going to see that AI is essentially all the concepts we used to talk about: sovereignty, self-determination, colonization. All these things are essentially relevant now. You could argue that they're even more relevant now because, again, there are 3 companies that are now valued over $1 trillion because of AI. There's way more world to be unlocked. This is going to change the entire dynamics for geopolitics, right? There's a lot happening and we need to be intentional about it. The strategy is good. We've done a lot of work. The implementation of the strategy is even more important. So in Ghana, for example, the government has allocated at this point about $1 billion to implementing the AI strategy. But government doesn't need to work by itself. Private sector is involved in this, right? So some of the telcos have allocated also $1 billion to expanding data center capacity. We have a number of initiatives happening around the continent. The other thing is that we need to actually approach this not as individual countries. We need to approach it as a continent because by ourselves, we cannot globally compete. The amount of money floating in the US, the amount of money floating in Europe, and the advantage that China has, if we want to strategically position ourselves, we need to do it as a continent, right? Not to get political, but some of the things I'm seeing now, especially even in South Africa, right? It doesn't give me a lot of good, a sense of pride and confidence that we can actually win or at least not be on the losing end of the AI race. We need to be united as Africans. If not, we're going to end up in a very divided digital world where China, US will take all the advantage and will be on the serious losing end. So I seriously think it goes beyond just digital, but we need to really, really be united as Africa if we're going to survive the coming age of AI.
Yeah, definitely connecting a fragmented market would only do wonders, and we could talk AI data centers for many hours. But I'm a bit cautious of time, so Bradley, I'd like to ask you just one more question, and then after which I'll ask you a little round robin to cap this off. But I mean, you're a clinical researcher at the University of Oxford. That's one of the biggest educational institutions in the world. So could you just offer some insight into the sort of AI health innovations coming out of this place, and yeah, what can we expect?
So I think I'm currently presenting to everyone from 4 a.m. in San Francisco. I've sort of been doing a round robin, talking to people working in various forms of like novel AI research in healthcare, and it is possibly, I think, the most insane, exciting space to be in at the moment. Firstly, I mean, there's everyone trying to find all the ways that you can use a large language model to do incredible things in health, effectively trying to just make the ability to deliver care at scale across the world really cheap, really accessible. I think there's a lot of incredibly smart people working on that. There's really good evidence to show that effectively these tools can now start really helping people to manage diseases, to start getting information from patients before they even get into doctors' rooms. I think what is really exciting at the frontier is these tools are helping us to understand biology in a way that we really haven't been able to before. So there's lots of people that are working on effectively all the things that end in omics, so genomics, proteomics, all of these ways of monitoring the human body that previously have just been these like scattered projects where people pull and run individual tests and look at one disease. They're starting to pull these things together. There's people working on personalized drugs. There's people working on making incredibly precise predictions about what diseases you may get in your life. And effectively figuring out ways to detect and measure things that really just haven't been possible before. There's ways of blood tests determining how much you've smoked versus determining how healthy you are, how much exercise you've been able to do, and how it impacts your general health span. And I mean, that's just scratching the surface of what's really possible in the space as people start to really invest and do a lot more work in pulling these data sources together. So I think the frontier in health is going to just be that. I think in the next 10 years, we functionally just produce more knowledge than we probably have in the last 100 and potentially can treat diseases functionally we've never really been able to or really have given up trying to treat with tools that just have been impossible before now.
Brilliant, brilliant. It's just, I mean, the opportunities are endless, and that's the most exciting thing about this. It's creating solutions in a continent that hasn't had many before. So, look, we don't have time for a round robin again, but Tapelo, I'd like to end with you just on if you could give me a quick answer here for a very expansive question. I want to talk why AI sovereignty matters. What happens if Africa doesn't create its own AI future? And shoot away.
Yeah, cool. I'll try and keep it brief, but I think, AI sovereignty is very important because if you think about it from a very personal perspective or view, it's that we don't rely on other people's intelligence when making decisions, right? And the same logic goes for countries and continents. So it's quite important for Africa to build its own AI intelligence and to be able to rely on the data, the views, the nuances, the context that Africa has, and not necessarily be colonized by other parts of the world's worldviews. So, I completely agree with what Darlington was saying around the importance of ensuring that we build it properly for Africa, by Africa,
Thanks. I can imagine that was hard to keep brief because that is an expansive question. Guys, if we were in front of an audience, this is where we would have the applause. I just want to thank you so much for sharing your experiences and being here. It's individuals like you why the African growth story is in full effect. So thank you. Thank you very much. Go well. And back to you in the studio, Chanel.
Thank you so much, Freddie. And thank you to your panelists. That was amazing insights that we've seen. Freddie, I have to ask you, as we're gearing up for the next issue of Forbes Africa, which is an AI one as well, I'm so excited to reveal. What are some of the insights that you took from this conversation that you can see in our own research as we prepare for the next issue?
Yeah, I mean, it got me very excited for the August-September issue, and there was a lot of overlaps there. Look, I think the main thing here is that for a while AI has been almost a fictional thing. People have used ChatGPTs and Claudes, but these are like tangible solutions. These are real-world solutions. How it's actually been implemented across Africa. So it's really going to new heights. There's momentum. It's an exciting time to be in this space, and it's also a scary time, but I think it's good to acknowledge that and build around it. So yeah, excited for the upcoming issue. What a great list we've had.
You quite literally got to speak to the past and the present of under 30 within AI.
Lucky me.
Thank you so much, Freddie. That was Freddie Heine all the way in Cape Town. Today's discussion has shown that Africa is not waiting for the future of artificial intelligence. Young innovators across the continent are building it and are actively shaping the way we look at it. We are close to the end of the summit, but before we get there, we have to turn our attention to another big industry on the continent, which is the creative economy. When it comes to this economy, I admit as a journalist, I have tended to focus a lot on music and film, but today I redirect my attention to art in a conversation with one of our cover stars. Let's meet her.
Sosa Omorogbe is the founder and CEO of the 1897, a multidisciplinary cultural agency connecting Africa to global audiences through exhibitions, strategic partnerships, and cultural innovation. Now in conversation with Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 curator, Chanel Retief.
Sosa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have this conversation, especially when we look at the fact that the creative economy globally accounts for almost 2.3 trillion annually. And in Africa, that is about 58 billion. I read a recent stat or recent number recently where it said that in about 2030, that is going to be about 200 billion, depending on where we're looking at for policy, infrastructure, etc. Speaking to you as someone who has focused ideally on the art space, to start off with, what gap did you see in African art that got you to start 1897?
Yeah. So there were multiple gaps I saw. From an advisory perspective, I saw that people were curious, but they didn't have the necessary guidance, the necessary knowledge in order to navigate the art space. So that meant that we had a bunch of Africans that were interested in investing in us, but couldn't. So they would take their capital elsewhere. Another gap that I saw was just how we treat our heritage objects and treat our culture. In Nigeria, not to criticize my country, but we do have a culture of, breaking down and rebuilding as opposed to restoring and preserving. And I wanted to change that. And then the third gap I saw was that, we weren't in conversation with each other. So African countries, even cities like Lagos, they exist in silos, but there's so many necessary discussions and connections that need to happen in order for us to build our own ecosystems and have longevity as a continent. And so with 1897, I wanted to foster those meaningful dialogues, not just within Nigeria or Africa, but with the diaspora as well.
When we think about the creative economy, and I mean, I said this in the beginning, we focus a lot on art and film. And I think, forgive me, film and music. And you and I discussed this at the cover shoot as well, is that there's a huge focus on film and music. Why do you think it's important that people also turn their attention to art? Because it is a lucrative part of the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important because from my perspective, I studied political science, and I actually know a lot of people who ended up in art that started with political science. And I think art teaches us so much about who we are, our past, our present. It helps us, see into the future of who we can be. It crosses boundaries of language and borders. And I think even from an intellectual perspective, that's a huge, robust part of art, music and film as well. And I think it's just important to diversify the art forms that we not just invest in with our money and capital, but invest in with our mind.
I mean, you've helped me segue into the conversation regarding investment. And not a lot of people know that you actually started out in investment banking. And this helped, sort of alleviate that gap between, how we look at art as a creative, but also look at art as an actual business form. Speak to us about how you bridge the two together and why it's important when having conversations, why people need to speak about the creative aspect, but also the economic aspect.
Yeah. So funny enough, I started off in arts and quickly became I started off in arts and quickly became aware of the need to get a grounding in just general corporate finance because it was a huge part of the arts industry as a whole. For me, what I discovered was with advisory, yes, there was a part of it that was about the fact that I loved an artist and I thought that, they should be supported and bought. but a huge part of it was just portfolio management, because in today's day and age, art is a very viable asset class, and I needed to understand that. So that's where the investment banking really came in and came in handy. The other thing that I think people in creative industries need to understand is when you want people to invest in your craft, invest in your practice, is that you really do have to meet them where they are. And the nature of the world we live in now, people understand investments. So you meet them at the investments, and then they come in to understand, the brushstrokes and the history and the references. So you need to meet people where they are. And I think it just makes our understanding of art fuller.
When we spoke in the middle of the process, one of the things that I was fascinated about when reading your story is how much emphasis you've placed on why it is important to invest in art and invest in creative infrastructures, because it can help in creating jobs and opportunities for people. Why is this such an important part of the conversation for you?
Oh, wow. So for me, when I first started out in art, even before 1897, my goal was to change what people cared about, and which was a huge goal. I wanted to change what people cared to know, what they cared to put their money into, and what they thought mattered. And that just bleeds into a lot of things. So for me, when thinking about the financial aspects of art, it's not just a one-off buy. It's not just, a client buying an artwork isn't just about that purchase. It's about empowering the artist, empowering the studio, which then bleeds into so much more. I think it's important for people to understand that the arts ecosystem really is an ecosystem. It's not just the artist and the gallery. There are framers, there are installers, there are shippers, there are, metal workers, a whole ecosystem. And the good of one acquisition is 1,000-fold, really.
We just had yes, it did. We just had a conversation now with other listeners and alumni regarding how AI, is actively part of the African ecosystem. When you think about the technology side of this industry, how has this changed the way African art is discovered, collected, and shared with the world?
This is a funny question, because I always joke that art is one of the slowest moving, least technologically advanced industries that you will come across. The arts ecosystem or industry now is probably not that different from what it was hundreds of years ago.
Sure.
But we, because it's such a human industry, right? We did have NFTs and that a couple of years ago, but that sort of died down. Now we see technological advancement with a lot of the database problems and provenance problems. People are trying to solve that. People are also trying to make it easier for people to access pricing information, because a huge barrier to entry for new buyers, new anything in the art world is just asymmetric information. The art world thrives off that. And so, we have Artsy, we have ArtNet, well, ArtNet-ish, ArtLogic, which I use and love to help manage my database, invoicing, etc. And all those platforms are slowly introducing AI into their algorithms. But I don't know, I could be misinformed, but it's not anything that's comparable to what other industries are doing with AI.
I mean, I think it's still good to then, touch on what do you think excites you most about African art and the future of African art? Because like you said, art is one of those slow industries in comparison to a lot of our other industries like finance, like the creative or film and music. What are you most excited about?
I feel like this changes every single week, but I can tell you what I'm most excited about this week. And
Tell us.
it's the institutions being built. You know, since in the past couple of weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with interested artists, interested collectors, gallerists that are just so passionate about building stuff for us, by us. And that really excites me because I think that that's a general, you know, African issue. There's been a lot of extraction from the continent. And I think in the arts ecosystem now, we're really seeing people wanting to pour in, wanting to build museums, wanting to build residencies. And I'm so excited for that to happen because I think that the impact of it will be incredible. I think when people really see what happens when you place your capital in Africa, it's not just social impact, it's actual tangible financial gains as well. And so I'm excited for that. And I'm also excited for collaboration across countries. We're seeing more and more of that in the art world. And I think that for Africans, we need to collaborate. We need to speak to each other. We need to bridge these gaps. I will just say a short story. I remember once I was flying from Lagos to Dakar, and it was cheaper for me to fly to Paris then Dakar than from just Lagos to Dakar. And I thought that was crazy and just emblematic of a wider ecosystem issue. And so even the arts world, just those within the continent are speaking to each other and building. That's what I'm excited about.
I mean, obviously you made the cover as I said in the beginning. Where were you when you found out that you made the list, and what was your reaction before I ask my final question?
I was stunned. And like now when I think about it, I don't know how. I just genuinely had no idea. I was over the moon, to be honest. And then I sat down and thought, oh, so that's why we did the shoot. So this makes sense now. I'll take this makes sense now. Because I remember at the shoot asking, because I thought it would be, 30 of us.
Yes.
And so I got there and I asked the makeup artist today, I'm like, oh, have other people shot today? And she was like, no. I'm like, okay, I guess we're the first time slot.
We took the word confidential very seriously. But now as a lister, so I want to ask you, what legacy do you hope to leave behind, especially as someone doing art business?
I want to see more people in art business. I really do. I don't want to be the only one, and I'm not, of course. But I want to see more people who are interested in not just the financial aspects of arts, but the actual real core of creativity and beauty, legacy and heritage. I want people to invest more of their time and their expertise into this industry because it is super important. It is legacy building. And yeah, that's what I want to see. And I hope by being on the cover, it really shows people that alternative paths are viable. All you need is hard work, dedication, conviction in what you are doing. And yeah, come work in arts.
Go work in art.
Right.
So thank you so much for your time. And once again, congratulations on making the list. That was Sosa talking to us all the way from Nigeria. And I'd just like to take the time to thank all our speakers, all our guests who were here, and of course our viewers across Africa and around the world who took the time to chat to us and log in. And wherever you were joining us from, we are truly, truly appreciative of that. Today's conversation has highlighted innovation, creativity, but also determination that is continuing to drive this continent forward by young people. The under 30 class of 2026 are not only building successful careers, they are building impact, solving challenges, and inspiring the next generation of African leaders. And again, as the curator, I would like to say congratulations. If you have not yet explored the list, please go visit ForbesAfrica.com or pick up your latest issue from any of our selected retailers, which we have put a list out on our social media. So you can go and have a look there and see where you can get your very own copy of Forbes Africa. Maybe I'm biased, but I think it's a keepsake. From all of us at Forbes Africa, thank you so much for joining us at the Under 30 Virtual Summit 2026. Until next time, my name is Shanara Tiff, and I am signing off.